chase my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Joseph. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How was your DUI appearance?
It was incredible. I got asked if I was 21. I'm so fucking like that became my best friend. I was like, you just made my entire fucking night. You absolutely did. But super fun stuff. We have some fun stuff planned today too. I emailed Joseph first thing this morning and said, "You're taking point. I had a late night. You're taking point." And he's like, "Bet." So we're going to talk about Sean Combs' trial. We're going to talk about Smash JT trial. And we have a fun little game to play in the beginning that I totally didn't steal from another YouTuber that I saw. I didn't. I got inspired by them.
And I didn't click the link last night, so this is completely new. This is news to me. I read it, okay, but I didn't play. I wanted this to be a surprise to everybody.
Let's go. I only clicked like the first two because I wanted to do the same thing, but I wanted to make sure it would work and everything. Okay. Good morning, Gary. Isn't calling out a sexual offenders woke? Maybe, possibly, probably.
The man has problems. We'll deal with him later.
I love Crystal. She's awesome. Nothing water and aspirin can't solve. Jarrell, good morning. It's just a little website that is really actually quite funny, but it should be fun. Good morning, Tarek. Good morning, Joseph. Good morning, Raymond.
Yeah,
okay.
All Mexicans look the same to you.
Yeah, that was, you know what? I'm sorry for being racist for a second.
Yeah, I feel bad for thinking well of you because I always thought of you as more Florida white than Klansman white. But today I am corrected.
You said Florida white. Oh my god, that was fucking incredible. Oh my god. So this is a fun little site, you guys. We're gonna go through it before we talk about the two trials. Where we have to guess if the game. This is a real website, guys. Like, this is supposed to be serious website. Like, I find it hilarious, but we're gonna go through and see if these video games are woke or if they're not, and see what kind of a score we get. It's mind-boggling to me that this kind of thing exists. I'm so ready. Tropico.
I'm ready.
You know what? I have this one. So I have seen Spiffy in the chat talk about Tropico. And Spiffy is very conservative. So just going off of that alone, I'm going to say no.
You
know anything about Tropico? Spiffy.
No, I don't know who any of these losers are, dude.
Oh my God, Spiffy's he's a
no, I know who Spiffy is.
Okay. I was like, he's our token conservative.
Right, I know the losers in the chat. I don't know the losers. Every other loser. That's
my God.
I'm talking about.
It's a strategy game. Let's say no. Yes. See?
Wait, hold. Can you zoom in? I can't see that.
Oh yeah, I can.
Hold on, because I'm. Wait, actually, here. Let me do that. That's fine, right there.
That's good. Okay. Good morning, Hooded and Asian. He said, "Good morning, Tristan and Asian Joe." Good morning, Colin.
Viva Colin, what's up, dude? All right, let's get on with this. So what's next?
Okay.
Yes.
This feels like it's woke already.
I didn't have to read it, and it's yes.
Yeah, like the coloring.
It's too much pink.
Yeah. Yes. We're so smart. It contains anti-family and pro-LGBTQ messaging. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
It looks like a woman made. It looks like a woman.
It looks like some manga shit.
And look, we are the 96%.
I don't know what this is. Actually, I have no idea. I've
All
never
right.
heard of it. We're just gonna go with woke. It looks a little
Yeah.
cutesy, so
No one likes it, so it has to be.
no, yeah, I've never heard of this one. Oh my god, you can pick. Oh my god, homosexual romance options makes it woke. Okay, Coffee Talk. I
Homosexual
played
robots.
romance. So I played Coffee Talk. It is a narrative, kind of cozy-esque game. It is very woke.
It's a short-haired feminist. She's smiling at her next victim. Okay, it had to be. It had to be.
It's
It
a
had to be.
really good game. It got super popular there for a minute. It's free on PlayStation Plus. It's really good if anyone wants to like sit back and play something just like chill. But it says contains pro-climate action messaging. So does Marvel Rivals. What the fuck? Like, okay. I love it. Crystal, yes, Crystal knows what. See, I told you I love this girl. She knows Coffee Talk too. I love it.
All right, so what's next? What's gonna come up next?
Freedom Wars. That just got remastered like 2 months ago. I'm gonna say no. It's an old game. It's an old JRPG. If I'm remembering correctly, that got remastered just recently. So let's say no for that one. No, what? Unlike the original, the remaster uses body type in place of biological sex.
Type A, B. What the hell are they talking? Type A, B instead of male and female, but isn't that the same thing?
It is literally the same thing.
If the one with the wiener is one type, and yeah, isn't that just another way of saying
like it would be no different than putting type 1, 2, or XY. Like it's just small brain. Oh, Strange Horticulture. I played this too. This is boring.
Strange horny culture. That's a definite yes.
Mm-hmm. This is boring. It's all about plants. I tried to like it, and I just couldn't. Like, I like a good cozy game, but this one was just too boring for me. Like, you had to learn about all these fake plant species and stuff, and I was like, no. But I'm gonna say it's woke. Contains anti-patriarchal messaging. Oh my god!
Wait, that guy in the background, is he a male feminist? He looks like a male feminist at first glance.
He does,
so I think that's
right. It says the backstory basically is that the woman you play as, she was raised by her mom. That's it, because her father was abusive, and that's woke. That's Joseph.
That's the whole story.
Joseph. Yes, that's basically it. You don't get much. That's it. Why have we gotten to a point in society where an origin of a character that is meant to be tragic is woke?
I feel like KFC owns the public schools where these people come from.
So oh my god, wrong. You might be onto something. You might be onto something. It's not even like Good Church's Chickens. It's fucking KFC.
I know. I know Church's Chicken rocks. But, what's next? Let's see what else. I think this is underwhelming so far.
Rush Rally. I don't know this game. We're just gonna
wait. No. That's a hold on.
Wait. You know
that's backyard NASCAR. Go. No, that's backyard NASCAR. Okay, that has to get a no.
Oh, that has to get a no. Okay, you are right.
See what? Because you know right away. Because that's a sport that doesn't allow black people, so you know it.
Oh my god!
No, it can't be.
Oh my god! I don't know this one. We're just gonna say woke by the.
It looks horrible.
Yeah, it looks like a kind of kiddie game. Validate? What is this? Oh, it's a dating game. It's absolutely woke because it's gonna let you date whatever you want or whoever you want. Zup? Mm-hmm. I don't know what this is. We're just.
What the fuck?
We're gonna say woke. No, it's not woke. Okay.
So don't you know anything about Zup?
I mean, I'm sorry. Zup is my favorite thing ever. TikTok and Tail for 2. I don't know anything about this one. Let's say nah. It's slightly woke. It contains pro DEI messaging. Okay, that means it has a black person in it. That's all.
Somewhere in the background, right? Like he
Craftopia. I don't know anything about this, but if it's a crafting game, it's woke. Yep. Anything that has any sort of queer romances. Okay, do you know this one? I feel like you might.
know.
No? Okay.
Beyond the Call of Duty, I've never seen that one, but it has a gun, so it can't be.
Yeah. Yep.
Guns
Not
are
woke.
for shooting liberals, okay, not helping them. So.
Fucking Bejeweled? Why is Bejeweled on here?
Because there's a rainbow on screen.
What? That's
The
like a
whole-ass
mobile
rainbow's
game,
right there.
right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. We'll say no. It's a game about matching colors. Half-Life.
Education is liberal. But Half-Life. Oh, hold on. I don't know when that. I don't know if that's like a DLC or something. But Half-Life is way before this conversation ever began. There's no way. There could only be the answer no.
Okay.
It could only be the answer no.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Isn't there like Half-Life Alyx and there's a couple other ones too?
Yeah, the series that's like anything but part 3. Anything but part 3 is the one thing.
Raymond said Half-Life is very woke.
I don't
know enough about it. I don't at all. But you're right, it is before the conversation, but that doesn't mean it's not like woke to them, right? Because if there's a person of color or a queer person, it's woke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Half-Life's a lot of things. This
I'm gonna say woke.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's got a girl.
Right away.
Yeah. A girl. That's all. Little Known Galaxy. I've played this before. I abandoned it because it wasn't fun. It's definitely woke. Yeah.
Definitely. So there is overt. I like how it says overt.
Like, what is overtly pro LGBTQ? Just having queer romances? Is that what that is?
Two girls meet for the first time and say we're lesbians.
Like, it's not like it comes out and like comes out and says all this like propaganda, or doesn't come out and like scolds you for not choosing a queer romance. It just allows it. That's it.
Wait, are games doing that now? If you don't pick the gay guy, even the game says something's wrong with you?
You bigot. The game turns around and yells at you. That would be fucking hilarious, though.
And now the game's just not playable?
Yeah. What is this? Always, sometimes monsters. I'm going to say if it's a monster game, maybe no.
Yeah, but I'm just going to say no because the title doesn't make sense. Like, someone stupid made that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Oh, wait, it is woke. Homosexual and trans player character options.
So giant homosexual monsters are wrecking the city, and I can see that.
I mean,
but is that what we're getting? Is that what they're telling us here?
I guess. Okay.
I like it says heavy social commentary. Like,
okay,
some of these people are just too smart.
This is yes. Come on now, just look at the art style. Oh, Tavern Talk. Tavern Talk was inspired from Coffee Talk, so yeah, it's woke. And it's a good game. It's basically Coffee Talk, but in a old timey bar with mythological creatures and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you're allowed to use pronouns, and there's non-binary characters. Oh no, I'm gonna say woke. I don't even know what this is. I'm just kind of going over those ones quickly that I don't know.
Now I understand why everybody's like everything. It's just a 90% score at least all around.
Everyone
that's obviously all the same. I understand this isn't even a fun game. I think I just click left is what they should have called it. But that one surprised me.
Yeah, same. This one, I mean, yep. You can tell what they think is like. They're so fucking predictable.
Mm-hmm. No longer home. What?
Okay, it's gonna be yep. And I mean, it's a girl, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Features a trans character. Oh no,
girls are gay.
Okay, this one confuses me. It's a girl, Joseph, but she's a cop.
Well, that shouldn't be confusing.
No. It's confusing because like
female police officers is a liberal policy.
Oh my God! What? Fucking fired. All right, I'm gonna go.
I know you don't have woman cops where you're from.
The player is a lesbian who struggles to drive in a straight line. What? That's what they wrote.
Hey, that's you.
You're the player. If you're struggling to drive in a straight line, that's on you, buddy. Oh my God. What?
I actually want to see you play this game.
Oh my God. I struggle to drive in a straight line no matter the situation.
This is trash.
This is insane. It's funny though. Okay, let's see what we'll do. A couple more. Greedfall. I'm gonna say no. It looks like some dude ass game.
Yeah, it looks
okay. I'm wrong. You know, can't judge a book by its cover.
Anti-Western society. What? I don't even know what most of these games. Here's what I want to know. Who gives a shit? Because nobody even knows what this shit is. Nobody knows what any of these games are.
I've known about half.
That's it?
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the ones that I've known are the more cozy-esque kind of narrative-driven or like crafty type games. So, I mean...
And more than that, what the hell is the title? I don't get it.
Greedfall? I mean, maybe it's like, okay, maybe we should have realized that one was woke. Maybe it's like the fall of capitalism, greed. I don't know. Yeah, Good morning, Tevia.
Anyway, let's see what's next.
Let's go. Misracked. This is okay. I do know what this game is. I actually passed on this game because I heard it was really bad. It's about like helping out the gods, like mythological gods and stuff. But the main character is brown, so woke, right? I knew it. Race swaps multiple Greek gods. Yeah, I knew that. And gives them contemporary fashion designs. Duh. Okay. This looks terrible. This looks like a Comicsgate comic art.
Yeah, this is AI art for sure. It's just shitty.
It's just bad. Oh, wait, it's not woke. Okay.
Homosexual romance options.
Big Kitty, Little City. Come on, everybody knows this game, right, Joseph?
No.
You said no. What the fuck?
No.
What is? Jarrell asked what pro DEI is. It just means diversity, equity, and inclusion. They basically use that for any character of color.
Is really what it means. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say no. This game's not woke. You're a fucking cat walking around a big city. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory.
But pussy is gay. Wow, I mean, I get to give them credit. They got something right. Holy
shit. Okay, we don't know what this is. We're moving on. Okay, we're getting shit games now. Police Quest. What are these games? Why? Okay, if you're gonna make a website like this, first question here. If you're gonna make a website like this, why would you not include games that most people have played, right?
Well, that's what I've been saying.
Your grandma's yard is gay. It's totally gay to mow your grandma's yard. Like, it feels like they were picking games like for their narrative that everything is woke, right? Like, they weren't picking. We didn't see no fucking regular Call of Duty. We didn't see no Gears of War, or I mean, even those have woke elements to it. But you know what I mean. We're not seeing like titles that everybody would know. Ghost of Miami. Oh my god, Baldur's Gate. It's super woke.
Which one though? Well,
this is the first one.
The answer is yes. It can only be yes if it's recent.
Yeah. And it sold like fucking gangbusters.
Like if you put free black people in medieval Europe, yeah, it's basically.
I mean, and you can literally you can romance anybody in that game, including the fucking bear.
Sounds like medieval Europe. The bear? Wait, really? The bear?
Yeah, the bear. I've not played it, but I know like I've seen people upload things of like a bear sex scene.
I'm gonna look that up on my phone.
You're like, I need to see this.
I need to make sure this is real.
For research, guys. For research. Very AAA titles. Exactly, Jarrell. It feels like they're very they're doing this for a narrative, right? They're not putting in titles that most people know. They're putting in off the wall titles that only I know because I play stupid ass indie games or play cozy games, right? Like, there's no reason Mythrex should have been in there. It was a absolute flop because mechanically it failed in a lot of different settings. It was boring. It did not do well. There's no reason why that game should be in here and not Red Dead Redemption 2. You know, like, it's very, very weird.
Quake 4 is an easy no. I played all these. Like I said, this is before that conversation ever happened, ever existed.
I always feel like cartoon and comics is, and I know there's a language barrier to some degree, but I always feel like cartoon and comics is on some major brain rot when he comes in here.
What?
Good morning, Black Phoenix.
And why'd you capitalize most of those words? Like, anyway,
no.
Quake 4 is an easy no.
There you go. Amnesia, no. Right?
Well,
that's a horror game. Okay, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, wait, you would know this one.
We'll do the same thing. It's an easy no. Like these are all games that came out way before this conversation was popular.
Dragon Ball,
you have to say yes.
Wait, you're wrong. He has a tail, though. Is that woke?
No, he's a gay character, but he's...
Oh, okay. The bear is a very big gay man. I've seen that. It's
I'm
crazy.
looking at a thumbnail right now. This guy
is right?
Yeah.
What are these? Pajama Sam? Who the fuck? What are these choices? And I don't even see Robert, and I feel like he would know some of these games, though.
Yeah, I feel like this is something he played extensively. What the hell is this stuff? Dude, this sucks now. Okay, this is boring.
This is like, Power World's woke. Like, that's the first title that I've seen that I've even, these are bad. These are just really bad. Geometry Dash? Stop it. Isn't that a mobile game also?
Oh, well, does it contain liberal math?
I guess it's woke. Yeah. I didn't know. Okay.
It has that liberal math where 2 and 2 equals 5. That's why.
Oh my God. Monster Prom, definitely woke. Yeah, these are getting really silly. This doesn't even have okay.
That sounds like fun.
Putt again. Are we getting repeats at this point?
Yeah.
Metro.
No.
Woke. Okay, I don't know.
That was an easy no. Come on. Worms.
Oh, Worms. Oh my God. Worms is crazy. Oh, it's wrong. It's woke.
There are no people in Worms.
But there's also that one where you can play like 4 players. It's like WMD or something. It's like it's a crazy game. Okay, Dorf. I don't know how this could be woke, but we're gonna say no. Okay, yeah, it's literally a building a town game. Okay. Putt-putt is a classic.
Any game with no personality, you click left. That's basically what it's coming down to.
Dark Souls is woke. Yeah. Sticky Business is woke. Yep. I played that before. It got boring. Another putt-putt. Okay, we're getting repeats. Rage, woke.
That one is not. Bullshit. No, it doesn't.
It is absolutely woke.
Yeah, you have not played it, and I know that. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Wait, features an improbable.
Features female. I fucking told you. A woman equals woke to them because they've never seen a real one naked in their life.
Actually wrote it though. Features an improbably high number of female combatants, many of whom are authority figures. All right, yeah, and there's a good reason for that. For those of you who don't know the story of this game, and notice that's a sequel. A comet was going to hit Earth. All of the best scientists were in suspended animation just above the Earth, right? And they were going to descend in pods about the time that the dust would settle, and they were supposed to repopulate the Earth. So that's why there are men and women. And
oh my God, but there's an improbable number of females.
But who is gayer than the people who made this? Because if you can't put men and women together, and then what's gayer than that? If you can't put men and women together? Did you not just
hear me? They've never seen one naked in their life. I mean, in real life. So it's like foreign to them. They're terrified.
Right.
Oh my God. Okay, cartoon and comics. I do agree, but ESG is not what you think it is. That's what I'm saying. Not. ESG didn't make Rage 2 supposedly woke, right? If you're talking about the corrupt elite class, like, you know, the people in power, yeah, I don't disagree with you that there's a corrupt elite class. But saying that these video games are corrupt from ESG is wild to me. Like, there's some serious corruption with the Elon shit and everything else. But, like, speaking of Elon, I need to say hi to Elon Mudd. I haven't talked to him in a minute.
Oh, you're not missing anything. I talk to that guy all the time.
You said you're not missing anything. Elon's awesome. Final Fantasy's woke. All right. Detroit, super woke. What is this? This looks like a drag queen.
It is.
Does it not?
Yeah, it's a guy.
Okay, that's what I thought. I don't know what that is. No, okay. All right, I think we're done here. Neo woke. Yep. I think we're done here. We're getting into the silly. We're not even into the fun.
Out of the replay.
No way. It's too funny. Littlewood, super woke. I've played that.
No, Littlewood describes the guys who made this.
Oh my God. Yeah. Sally Face woke. And the funny thing about this, so we're going to end this, but the funny thing about this is a lot of these games, you know, that like get woke, you know how they always say get woke, go broke or whatever. A lot of these games that they're showing that are woke are super fucking successful. Rage, right? Or even that Sallywood game or Sally Face, like it was like Five Nights at Freddy's popular at some point.
I haven't heard of any of these, dude. I don't know what most of this stuff is.
And they didn't have a lot of
skin collar. What is that?
It's a scarf.
It is a scarf. Okay.
Snake skin. Fucking snake skin. Though I wouldn't be against it if it looked good. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't have enough water in my brain yet. Hold up.
I mean, it's early for you. It's super early for you.
I don't even drink though. You, on the other hand,
I never drink.
So let's cut the boring part out of. We'll cut that out of the replay.
I don't even think it's boring. That's the thing. I think it's funny to point and laugh at, just like we're gonna point and laugh at Smash JT. We'll start there because I feel like the Sean Combs stuff is a little bit more serious. So we'll work our way there. So give everyone the TLDR.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to help me fill it in too. But basically, yeah, Smash JT is being sued for 5 charges. Let me pull that up. I didn't have that ready. I was ready to talk about Sean Combs, but let me just pull that up because he's being sued for 5 different charges, including one that's apparently made up by the federal courts. So like it doesn't have a statutory basis, which means you're not even supposed to be able to use it. But that's something that an appellate court has to strike down. It's just part of how the court system works. We'll get into that later. So when it comes to whatever the hell's going on with him, so Alyssa Mercante was senior editor at Kotaku for a while. What was it, 2022, right? Somewhere around there.
Yeah, and it really all started when do you remember sort of the rise of Sweet Baby as the villain of the game? Right. She wrote an article titled something along the lines of "Sweet Baby is not what you think it is," and that's really where it all started. That's how she got on the radar of kind of all of these anti-wokers.
Mm-hmm. Well, I understand that because Mercante is also suing for 2 types of defamation. For those who didn't know, there are 2 types. There are 2 main types of defamation. I do hear something in the background now, but yeah, there are 2 main types of defamation. Turn my music down. So let's actually start there, the defamation, because that's really the part I was preparing for to explain all that, because this is one of those things that really gets on the nerves of people who are like strict constitutionalists, because defamation is a free speech exception. The Constitution doesn't say except to free speech. It doesn't say anything about protected and unprotected speech. It doesn't say political speech. It doesn't say anything about obscenity. It doesn't say anything about hate speech and so on.
Right.
It just says that the freedom to speak cannot be abridged, which means restrict. Okay, so then what the hell is a free speech exception? So then we'll get into that right there. So that's the part you got to understand first. What's protected and unprotected speech right off the bat. Speech by itself is never subject to regulation in the United States. That's ultimately what the Constitution means. Okay. Now, sometimes speech is an element of something of behaviors which have always been subject to regulation. And when your speech is a necessary element of something that is illegal, then you've highlighted a free speech exception. Okay, and that's when you prove that the speech is necessarily tied to the illegal activity. So in other words, speech by itself is never evidence of a crime or a tort in civil court, but when it's tied to the illegal activity, then it becomes an issue. Then it becomes an issue for you in court. So nowhere was this made more clear in Brandenburg v. Ohio. This was a case determined in 1969 because of a Klansman, and it's always them, right? It's always a Klansman.
Oh my God!
It's always one of them that's got to fuck it up for somebody.
So your family, yeah.
My family. Wait.
Anyway. I don't care if you're brown. The joke works.
So anyway, look, here's what happened. So Mr. Brandenburg gave a speech at the Klan rally. It got the crowd really lit up. Got them to riot, basically. That wasn't the intent of his speech, but that's what happened. That's what followed. So he was convicted of, I don't remember his actual charges, actually, but he was basically, all that was linked to his speech. He was charged with inciting all of those crimes. So he had to take his appeal to the Supreme Court. They ultimately reversed, and they established that in order for the speech to be tied to the illegal activity, there are two elements that have to be established. Okay, that the speech is directed at provoking or inciting something lawless, and that a lawless activity has to actually be imminent. Okay, so now you see right there how the Supreme Court highlighted an exception. Now you see how those rules work.
Right.
And you asked a long time ago, how is JT responsible for the actions of other people? Because there's a lot going on in this story. A lot of people seem to be following his lead. So what you saw right there, basically what it comes down to in defamation is that speech by itself isn't subject to regulation. Again, contrary to what people think, the Constitution does protect false statements, even if they're published, but it doesn't protect the damaging results of the published statements. So that's why for Mercante to be successful, she has to show a necessary link between the damage she says is done,
right,
and the statement she says is defamatory. So it's not as simple as he's responsible for all their actions, but it's evidence in this case, something that could, it's going to bankrupt him.
They did a really good job of showing kind of the fallout. And I actually found it really funny. So in the court papers, they showed okay, so section A, say Smash JT did a video called Alyssa Mercante is going bankrupt. And then they would show the following, there was a couple YouTubers that they specifically named that would say bankruptcy for Alyssa Mercante, ? They showed the line of the action that he caused, or the lie, or the grift, whatever you want to call it, being followed up and repeated by his sheeple, so to speak.
Right.
Also, yeah. I want to correct this real quick. I don't know where you got your information from, but quit believing everything that's, on YouTube. Sweet Baby Inc. is a politician kid's job. Even if she is, I can't find any truth to that.
The hell am I reading?
Yeah, I know. But it literally was founded by Ubisoft scriptwriter. What are you? What? Stop believing everything you hear online.
I don't know what the hell I just read.
Yeah,
that didn't make any sense.
No, yeah. Well,
and I still have that thumbnail of the bear sex. I gotta agree with it. Anyway, so then where are we now? Because I was ready to talk about the defamation.
Okay.
And I understand this came down to commentary based on one tweet she wrote in response to someone else's question. Do you have that handy?
No, I don't, but I did want to talk about the one. So jokes are dead, right? And I thought it was really funny that she said, somebody said, how did you get a job or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And she wrote back, like, it was a very quirky response, something that I feel like I would say, or a lot of people would say, like, just to fuck around with dumb ass people. But she said, I suck dick, right? To get her job. And then they tried to take it from there to whole new fucking levels.
Right.
And that's part of where the defamation is coming from.
Okay, that's where the allegation starts. So let's
right, and she very clearly, I listened to her on David Jaffe, right? And she was like, obviously it was a joke. It wasn't like it. Are we policing jokes now? Like, what's going on? It's okay to joke around online, guys.
No, it's not that jokes are being policed. So here's how it works. When it comes, again, protected, unprotected speech, right? You have to highlight the exception. So here's what you got to grasp to understand what's going on here. So in court, there's a difference between a fact and an argument. Okay, a fact is not. It's not like the story taken as a whole is one giant fact. The way people tend to see it. That's not
right. Right.
Yep. So let's say it's a self-defense incident. Okay, let's put you in that personal spot. That's why I use self-defense and hypotheticals a lot, because it puts people in that personal, it gets them to see it in a personal way. Okay, it gets them more personally involved. So we're gonna say fact. There is now a dead body. Okay, fact. There is blood everywhere. Fact. There was a gunshot. Fact. The witness says you held the gun. Fact. The witness says you pulled the trigger. Okay, although those are
facts, but that you're also taking that from the witness, so the witness could be lying, but it is a fact that
witness testimony is direct evidence that gives you direct knowledge. Okay, these are all facts. Witness statements, facts. Okay, the government is going to argue that you have committed a crime. You get to argue that you acted in self-defense. You see the difference between a fact and an argument right there. The fact stands by itself. Okay, the argument is your position on it. Okay, that's what's the same thing that goes on here with the defamation suit. So the fact is she made those statements. Okay, it was in response to a question. The fact, she said she sucked dick, right? All of that is fact. She said it.
Okay, but what I want to ask about that, I feel like you would know more, is can we also say fact she was joking around? Or how would that? Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure. Let me get these super chats real quick.
Sure.
Morning, by the way. Sorry I'm late. What I missed. We played a game that Joseph absolutely hated called Woke or Not. It was absolutely terrible and funny at the same time. And Black Phoenix also said you missed the orgy. Sorry about your luck, Robert. Good morning, Punk. He said dropped in to say, hey, oh, Canada, viva Mexico. Good morning to you too, Punk. Bye. Also at the same time, because I see you saying adios.
Adios. Anyway, okay. So like I said, that's her argument, is that it was humor. Okay, that's fine. She can have that. Now, what she can't say is that I know my own words better than anybody else. That's called a self-serving statement. That does nothing more than reaffirm your own position.
Right. Okay.
But she can't say that. She can't just, throw some shit like that. Now, for JT to say, he took it as a statement of fact. He believes she said it and meant it. Yes, that is an opinion statement coming from him. Now, here's another thing. It doesn't have to be agreeable. It just matters that she.
No, you're right. You're right. But come on now. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, you're absolutely right. But he knew she wasn't being serious.
Well, that doesn't. There's no way for them to dissect that in court.
Okay, I get it.
There's really no way, unless it's a knowingly false statement. Okay, unless there's like a written plan or a witness to show that he planned to go out there, publish this knowingly false statement.
Okay,
and
you'd have to be able to prove that, right?
Yeah, we have the witness would have to come forward. There have to be documents showing that he intended this. Okay, so when it comes down to defamation, let me also touch on something else, because
Good morning, Pika. Good morning, Reese.
This is something that's coming to everybody's attention because she sued for defamation per se.
Right.
And this is coming to everybody's attention now through this case, and it's something that's easily misunderstood. So there are two types of defamation. Defamation per quote, meaning defamation by result. Okay, that's what Amber Heard did.
Right.
Okay, the results of her the damaging results were the proof of defamation, linked back to her false statements.
Mm-hmm.
Defamation per se is a bit stronger. So these are statements that are so strong that the court presumes that the plaintiff is damaged. So it's not what people are saying where they think you said it, therefore you're just guilty right off the bat. That's not what it means, because that would
Okay.
be compelled speech.
Okay.
That's not really what it means. It doesn't matter what the state law says. Doesn't matter what the federal law says. It matters what the courts have outlined. Okay, so the rules of defamation are that, and just like any presumption, it can be overcome, like the presumption of innocence. How does the government overcome it? You prove all the elements of the crime. Same thing with the presumption of damages that comes with defamation per se. So because he did say words like prostitution in there, okay,
Right.
she's within reason to allege that he is publicly accusing her of a misdemeanor in New York. Or I don't know if I think it's a misdemeanor in New York, but it's still a crime.
Right. Exactly.
And the federal courts have a list of statements called crimes of moral turpitude. And it is a subjective list, but it's standing right now, and prostitution's on that list. Some other things that are on that list. Now, these are statements that are so strong, it would basically shock the conscience of people who hear it. An easier example.
And when those are being parroted by people, does that make the case even stronger because he's the one that started it, or does that affect the case at all?
There is a rule called the repeater rule, but it's for other publishers, not really for people responding to it.
What about would it be considered publishers if they have a channel?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
The repeater rule does apply to them. But it's hard to nail down, because in defamation law there's also another iffy thing about this. There's a lot of room for subjectivity. So let's start with, how does JT survive this? Because if this does go to court, and then honestly it does look like it's going to get dismissed for jurisdiction. So now there's a solution. She can just change venue, come to California, where this should have actually taken place. But then at the same time, good luck. It looks like she had a weak claim from the beginning. Right. Now
anything online like this is going to be hard. You're fighting an uphill battle as it is.
Yeah. So it's going to be a frustrating thing for her no matter what happens. And like I said, in all likelihood, this is going to get dismissed unless the judge can find a good reason to continue in the Eastern District of New York. Now, I can tell you something. Let me see. I don't want to lose track of the conversation, because there is a lot to say about this. So it's probably going to get dismissed, but let's assume it's going forward. Because if this does go forward, I do believe he's probably going to lose. Yeah. So here's a few things you got to know. So the definition of a statement of fact. Okay, statements of fact can be proven true or false. Okay, if a witness gives a description of you or me, that's stuff that can be proven true or false, especially in open court, right? The jury can just look right at us, and see we match suspect descriptions, stuff like that. Opinion statements, by definition, can't be proven one way or the other. Like religious statements can't really be proven one way or the other. Okay, they're just, even if they're stated as a fact by themselves, they're not going to be proven one way or the other. So they're left as opinion statements. Now, for JT, this is where he could have problems. An opinion statement, let's say he intended it to be an opinion statement, but it turns out to be something proven false. Right. Then there is an issue for him right there, because the credibility, he has a defense in that case. Okay, opinion statement is a defense. That we talked about this with Anthony Fontano and Ronnie Radke. Okay,
oh God, yeah, yep.
Where Fontano, I believe he had a good defense on his case, mistake of fact, and lo and behold, they actually did transfer the case because the laws are too strong. It wouldn't have worked over here. Anyway, so he could also say mistake of fact himself, JT. He could also say he believed he had a substantial amount of truth on his side and gave an opinion, and
Is
he's
there a
saying,
difference? I just out of curiosity. So he used, her being a prostitute. Is there a difference with him? Would it have been easier for him to have this dismissed if he would have simply said, I think she was a prostitute, instead of giving it as a statement of fact?
well, my understanding, first off, you're right. First, it would have been easier. However, and this is what I'm getting at, opinion statements can also be used to imply a fact. And if they're used to imply a false fact, he's still liable for defamation.
Okay.
So the big problem for him is once you cross that territory where an opinion statement is treated like a statement of fact, or in other words, it's proven false. Now it's up to the jury to decide. Is it an opinion statement that was passed off as fact, or did he really make a mistake of fact? And that's 100% up to them. The credibility of any issue in civil or criminal court is always up to the jury. So what happened, whether or not he was actually giving legitimate opinion, he's going to be shit out of luck if this does go to trial. Yeah. Because because he was also such an incessant pain in the ass to this girl. And
like hundreds of videos, not even like a couple. Hundreds of videos he made about this girl, hundreds of tweets, hundreds of social media posts in general. Just type in Smash JT Alyssa Mercante and you'll see so many. Not only that, even when it didn't relate to her, if it was like he was talking about some game journalist, he would put her on the thumbnail.
Right.
To a degree where it was like, holy shit. Are you
also
good, bro?
Okay, so this is what it comes down to. So we probably will never know he willfully lied. A lot of people believe that, but
court is not for what he's never going to admit that.
But court is not for what you believe. Court is for what you can prove.
Right.
There's probably no proving he willfully lied. But there's a second avenue for Mercante that's called reckless disregard for the truth.
Right.
And so if there was, let's say, in this case, it looks like, let's just say he had an opportunity to reconsider the truth at any point. Okay, let's say if
like he was corrected and still continued to lie.
The letter of what was that called? The cease and desist letter isn't as strong as people think. Because think about that. Anytime somebody writes a cease and desist letter and it stood, people can just make shit up and send you a cease and desist letter. That's not really what they're for. It can be brought up in court as an argument for the plaintiff's credibility, but they're not legally binding. Bottom line, they're not actually legally binding. Okay, civil rules are very different. Sometimes the lawyers have to do certain things at a certain time, or the judge isn't going to consider anything. Like if your demand letter, let's say you're suing somebody, the judge might say your demand letter has to have been written and received within, at least 21 days prior to any motions. Okay, same things with cease and desist letters. Different judges, and I mean not just different courts. I mean different judges have different rules about these.
Right.
So the cease and desist letter could have been in pursuant to any rules, consistent with any rules that a judge wrote. Okay, but they have to do these things. It's part of the procedure. They have to do these things to show they're making an effort. But it has to be in writing and a certain amount of time before certain hearings, or the judge just doesn't move forward in certain parts of the trial.
Okay.
So it's stuff that they have to do. But yeah, they can bring it up later and say, look, we showed multiple cease and desist letters. He threw that out. But none of that really matters if they don't actually highlight the falsehood. That's the big problem. So now how does JT defend himself? He can actually show that she isn't harmed by the statement. Okay, that
like financially, or are we talking other ways?
Her reputation.
Her reputation was absolutely harmed. She lost her job.
Well, you might see in some recent videos he's showing the kinds of conversations that she's having with other people. Like there was that one guy who said if it was consensual and you didn't hate the Jews, that he would totally fuck the shit out of her.
What?
Did you see that?
No, I did not see that.
Okay, it's something that he's been highlighting. I've seen a few videos in researching this. I've seen a few videos. Yeah, and she said stop, but it seemed like she received it in a humorous way. I didn't see the whole video, but it did seem like she received that in a humorous way. So stuff like that, he can actually show.
You say that she'd ruined her own reputation?
Not that she ruined it, but that, well, he could, but I don't think that's what it's showing. But it could show that she wasn't actually harmed by his statement, because she has similar conversations all the time. Apparently, she has similar conversations like this all the time. So she can't. So that does weaken the argument a bit. If she's having these conversations all the time, and it shouldn't be more harmful if JT's making it. Now, then, and there's also another issue for her. She's making these comments where public discourse is expected. So nobody has to like you. That's another thing.
Right, absolutely.
Even millions of people on the internet don't actually have to like you. So she wants to prove that. Another issue for her, she cannot prove she didn't suck a dick to get that job. And if you follow the event, the events alleged, that basically what he's saying is she got the job for sucking dick. And that would be, if that's actually true, that would be compensation for a sexual act.
But he can't prove she did that either. So it's kind of
right now. Well, now here, that's also what I'm getting at. It's ultimately, this translates as opinion, because she can't prove it's false. He can't prove it's true. That's what it seems to look like. Right? Okay, that's what it seems like so far. It doesn't seem like anybody can prove a falsehood from here. However, remember, she has the other avenue, reckless disregard for the truth.
Right, because he called it prostitution.
Not just because he called it prostitution. Now that helps her. That helps her a bit in defamation per se. But like I said, all the same defenses to defamation, by result, per quote, all the same defenses apply. So like I said, if he can actually prove she isn't harmed in any type of defamation, yes, she can. It would weaken her argument. So that's why he is going over all this stuff that she has been saying online for years. She has been writing all these videos. And that's why he's going over that publicly, because he's showing she probably isn't actually harmed by this, or there's no way to link any perceived harm to his statements directly. Now, yeah, it looks that way. Don't get me wrong. I understand where she's coming from based on the timing of the events. Yeah, it looks like it started. Yeah,
definitely.
I get that, but you got to be a little bit more precise if you're going to.
There was two things specifically I wanted to ask you about when it came to the case, and with his videos and his postings and his psychosis and obsession with her, the death threats that followed, how does that weigh in court?
That does. So Alex Jones, here's the thing, it ultimately doesn't matter if there isn't a falsehood proven. That's the hard part. Like, look at Alex Jones by example. Well, look at Alex Jones by example. Okay, and then he said it was an opinion statement too, ultimately. But if you look at the way he spoke about it, it didn't look like he was giving an opinion. It looked like he really did state. And I remember following that when it first happened. I remember thinking, this guy's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
This guy's acting like these funerals didn't happen. Who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah.
Right. Now, unfortunately, in the Alex Jones case, it was easy to prove that he was wrong, that what he said was false. Not that he meant well, not that he meant not to lie or anything like that. Just that the statement is false. Remember that. The statement just has to be proven false. Not that he meant to lie, not that even so much that it was an accident, but just that the statement is false. So when he said these were all hired actors, none of these kids ever died. And then unfortunately, it's easy to prove because there were funerals.
Right, exactly. That was
right. So, but you see how right there, in something that strong, a falsehood is proven.
Right.
So now what happens from there? These families are threatened. Bricks and rocks are being thrown through the window, as far as I remember. I don't remember if anyone got injured. That's not really the point, though.
Exactly.
This is all stuff that would not have happened if not for Alex Jones.
But can't the same be said about the death threats, about the harassment that she's received? Can't it all be said that it would not have happened if not for Smash JT?
Well, that's what she's arguing. That's what she wants to show. She wants to show that.
Bye, Crystal. Have a good day at work.
Have a good one, Crystal. Yeah, she wants to show that's the connection. And I'm following this in pieces because her team
right, exactly.
Yeah, so because she's writing these huge complaints, I haven't gone through all of them, but like I said, she doesn't have to prove he knew it was a lie, but she can argue reckless disregard for the truth, which means whether or not there was any truth to his own statements, he's just going to spit off this bullshit anyway, which looks to be the case. That's why I think if this does go to trial, in any case, he probably will lose. I just think the current complaint is going to get dismissed for jurisdiction. Here's the whole thing for him, for her. So let's talk about the issue she's facing right now. The federal law says that the lawsuit has to take place where the damage was done. He's out here somewhere in California.
How does that work? Just online in general, right? Is it where the plaintiff or the defendant is from? Like, there are times like when it came to when I covered Johnny Depp, right? That ended up being in Virginia, not necessarily where they were from, but where I think it was some of the headquarters for Wall Street Journal.
So here's what I remember. What I remember is that the publisher was held liable. The publisher had offices in California and Virginia.
Yep, exactly.
And also, they opted to have the case in Virginia anyway because it has easier
anti-SLAPP laws.
It has lighter anti-SLAPP laws. Now we also got to get into that because JT's talking about all this money he's going to get after the lawsuit is dismissed. No, he's not. That's not how it works. Okay, this is a very layered thing. Try to follow me, but it sounds to me like JT is lying or being misled. And I actually sent him a super chat a few weeks back.
Oh yeah, you never got to tell me about that.
Yeah, so I asked him because he's saying that due to New York's anti-SLAPP laws, Mercante is going to have to pay all of Coleman's fees. Because that's part of let me start there. Let me make sure I have the audience organized on this. The anti-SLAPP laws are written by the states. They're for weak defamation claims. So like in California, you don't have to prove intent to chill. You don't have to prove that the lawsuit was filed just to shut you up.
Right.
Okay. Basically, if you file the motion to have the lawsuit dismissed, you're using the power of the anti-SLAPP law to get this shut down. And let's say you win. The court is going to require the other guy to pay your lawyer's fees or any other fees. Okay. That's one of the protections that's in the law. There's a lot to that. Okay. I don't want to lose anybody by going in depth, but this is a federal case. The anti-SLAPP laws are written by the states. Okay. And federal law does not have an anti-SLAPP protection. Okay. So now it's not absolutely irrelevant, but there are only portions that are going to get enforced. So here's what happens in federal lawsuits. The local state rules can be considered for any presumptions or defenses. It's what the rules of evidence say. It says that any presumptions or defenses that relate to the rule of decision. So in other words, this is a First Amendment case. Ultimately, the anti-SLAPP rules are written to expand where the Supreme Court has said there are limits to speech. Right? You remember what I said? Unprotected speech.
Right.
So now, when the Supreme Court says that speech is unprotected, that doesn't specifically mean it's illegal. It means the states can provide greater protections.
Right.
And that's what the anti-SLAPP laws are. They expand those protections. So that's why it can be harder to sue through the states than
Isn't it the anti-SLAPP laws are used so you can't basically, like a corporation can't shut down somebody criticizing them. Something along those. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while since the Johnny Depp trial. I just wanted to make sure I had a basic understanding.
Yeah, that's basically why it's written. So you can't just conflate, criticism. You can't just conflate criticism.
Actual criticism. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, with a false statement. Like you can't just lump it all together and say, look, this guy's talking shit about me. It hurts. Come on. You can't just do that. That's how it's
Come on, let's take him to court.
Right.
He hurt my fifis.
So what happens, because this is a First Amendment issue, the court is going to look to any rules related to speech, including the state rules. Okay, so now Mercante says defamation per se through prostitution, right? So that's part of it. And on JT's side of it, he's also arguing about jurisdiction. Okay, the New York courts also have some determinations that talk about this. So you might did you follow anything that he said about Ron Coleman's motion to dismiss? which he acts like is the greatest thing on the earth. Okay,
yeah, to some degree. Like, I don't understand. They all kind of have that obsession with Ron Coleman as it is. He does a lot with this kind of anti-woke group. But I know he was hoping it got dismissed. And to my understanding, there's nothing on that yet.
I believe the recent video I came across said something about, I think it's May of next week, May 27th.
Okay. So yep.
Yeah, something. Yeah, May 27th. So around that time, we'll know. But what he's actually doing there. So he thinks he's going to get Mercante to pay his lawyer's fees. No, she's not. Bottom line, she's not. So the anti-SLAPP laws are considered by the federal courts only where it relates to free speech protection. The other rules of the anti-SLAPP motion, like requiring her to pay his fees, that doesn't apply because at that point, the federal courts are enforcing state law. So wherever he got this idea, it would have had to come from Coleman. And I don't think
it would have had to.
Yeah, I don't think Coleman's a phony or anything, but yeah, the federal courts don't enforce that portion. They only look to the local rules for your, that's for your defense. Like here's an easier example to understand that happened recently. You might remember Disney sued Florida a few years back.
Yeah, I actually do for the. It had something to do with like LGBTQ something.
Yeah. Okay, and that is 100% Disney's right. Doesn't matter if Ron
absolutely
like it. That was Disney's right. So Ron had talked publicly about limiting Disney's tax exempt status. Give it time, and yes, the tax exempt status disappeared.
Right.
Okay, and then Disney sued, saying it was retaliation for First Amendment protection. The federal courts held that this does not prove retaliation under these circumstances because the state did have the discretion over the tax exempt status.
Right.
So because now, even though, it looks true, that seems to be why Ron did it, but that doesn't change the fact that he had the legal discretion over that status anyway. So because he had that discretion, it can't be used to prove retaliation under those circumstances. So that's an example of how the state law adds to the defense, how the state law contributes to the defense in a federal court, even though the federal courts otherwise wouldn't have anything to do with whatever's going on in the state government. So it's the same thing here. The local rules are considered by the federal courts only where it relates to the substantive issue,
right?
Which again is the First Amendment. So he's saying that this is protected speech. She's saying it's unprotected. But like I said, I don't think he's going to get it. Even if this gets dismissed, she's not going to pay him a cent.
No, absolutely not. And if it gets dismissed, you think it's a jurisdiction issue? Do you think it'll end up getting a new area? Like, what were you saying about that? That it could possibly go to California?
She can file a motion to change a venue, come to California where the damage actually took place.
Okay.
And like I said, maybe she really just does have a weak case, and that's
I don't, the end of the story, right?
Yeah, if the case is weak, the case is weak. There's just nothing else to do. That at some point you're gonna have to take the loss. And like I said, these guys came after her hard. I understand that, but honestly, when I look into this case, I see two jackasses with giant noses just.
Kind of. And there was one at some point. Another thing I wanted to ask you about that would make her look back. Will it affect it? Because at some point, I remember her challenging somebody to a fight, like an actual fight. Like,
okay, let's start there.
That looks really bad and childish, but bad for court.
Okay, I saw a video where she said, if you have a problem with it, come fight me physically.
Yeah, something along those lines. I was like, what? Why? What? But, are we not adults?
Okay, that would be something separate from the defamation claim, because now if she's provoking a fight, that's something else. Now she wouldn't be able to, but she wouldn't be able to use that provocation in the civil court.
Would he, though, to make it seem like she caused her own downfall?
he might be able to. I'd have to see something more specific to link
Right.
it, but he might be able to find a way to squeeze that in, because that's also another this much is fact as an element here. If she's the one ruining her own image, then he's absolved basically.
Right.
Or I shouldn't even say absolved. There's nothing to investigate if she's the one ruining her image. Now, obviously, she thinks it's him, and I saw some of the coverage, and I saw the alleged defamatory statement, the tweet. Who was she talking to? Do you remember who asked the
I
question?
think it was no, I think it was just like a random person. Like I don't think it was anybody of relevance. I think she was just fucking around, sick of the shit, and said, "Oh, I said," you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think she meant it as a joke. I agree.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, as a matter of protected speech, and that's honestly my priority in this conversation, as a matter of protected speech, you need something better than you can't just have a strong hunch that this guy is lying. Even if you don't like the guy, you know the guy doesn't like you. Okay, now that's also
Well, you
something
can't
else.
also say that a tweet is proof of prostitution.
No, it doesn't prove she actually committed the crime of
Right.
prostitution. That's true. But that's again, it's an opinion statement. Ultimately,
Yeah.
it's an opinion statement until proven false. And like I said, her best avenue is reckless disregard for the truth. And the fact that publicly they don't like each other, okay, does play into it. But now
She
here's
contacted his family. Is that going to play into this at all?
what did she say?
She messaged his wife on Facebook and said, I don't know if you know what your husband is doing, basically, but he won't stop. He won't leave me alone. He won't quit harassing me.
He won't quit. No,
crazy,
that doesn't.
fucking weird to do, but
Well, I understand what she's trying to do. She's just trying to make it stop.
yeah.
I don't see that doing any real harm or good specifically, because okay, the fact of the matter is they don't like each other. They talk shit about each other, right? And that's something that's an obstacle to her, because they don't like each other.
Yeah.
Okay, but at the same time, the legal question is not whether or not they like each other. The legal question is whether or not JT went past the First Amendment threshold.
Right.
And he violated defamation law. So even though they don't like each other, that doesn't mean he can defame her. Okay. And when it comes to defamation per se, like if he actually did accuse her of a crime that is later proven false, it doesn't matter if he just said it in the heat of the moment. The court has outlined he said it, he published it, it's false, and there's some damage that has been linked to that false published statement. Okay, that's what matters.
Okay, so this is what happened. She actually challenged Vara Dark. Vara accepted for charity, obviously. So it has nothing to do with Smash, so it's really kind of moot.
Okay, well, understood. That's not a good look for her publicly.
Right,
and yes,
for sure.
And then that does, with that in mind, that does hurt her a little bit. She is hurting her own image, but remember,
I'll fight her for charity. I'm tough.
But remember, the real question is whether or not the damage done is linked to JT's statements.
I think that's going to be pretty easy to prove, though. Like, well, she has a really great outline of him to his sheeple. She had a really great outline of the hundreds of posts, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter or whatever. It's going to be a lot for somebody to take in from the outside, not thinking that it was him.
Oh, and well, again, remember, court is for what you can prove. And it looks close. Now, here's what she does have going for her, though. She did say something about a private Discord. Are you aware of that one?
Yes. Trying to get some sort of information or something along the lines. I remember briefly hearing about it.
Well, this is also similar to what happened to Alex Jones, because he had his InfoWars website had its own message boards, and he owns that. Okay, so because he owns it, it's presumed that he's aware of what's going on. Now he can say, "Yeah, I can't be aware of everything because it's big. He's got other people to run it, and he can try all that, but it's not very convincing when he's
Right.
making money directly from those false statements. Remember, he was selling merchandise following all of
Right.
those false statements.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. And
and the
not only
lawyers
on
picked it
his
apart.
YouTube, he also has his own website. He also has his, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
she was saying on average, there was what, three videos about her a week and up to 5 to 7 a week.
Now, see, unfortunately for him, he's too stupid to stay quiet. And that does play into her favor for reckless disregard of the truth. Because over and over, you would think by now, over and over, because he's just spouting off this nonsense so much, and he's making money off of that at the same time. Again, that's similar to what happened to Alex Jones. That is an argument in her favor. So it is something if she does actually get this to court, yeah, that actually is something that she can use to fight this. And if that goes to a jury, she's probably going to win just for that reason. So how about the harassment her fans did?
I didn't hear anything about this, and we've done a lot of research. Calling
Okay.
his old boss.
This-
Yeah, that's
this is
fucked
the
up if it
tricky-
really happened.
This is the tricky one for people to understand. Harassment and defamation aren't the same.
Right.
And if her boss is, I don't know if he's a public figure or a limited public
Right.
figure, but then that's another issue too. And again, where public discourse is expected, nobody has to say anything nice about you. When we
Nope.
saw that video that Miss Mercante posted a few days ago, she showed some really rotten shit that she would
Really bad. Yeah.
like she's a Jew with a complex. But whatever the case, it doesn't matter how ugly those statements are. Okay, under the First Amendment, it doesn't matter how ugly those statements are. Now, again, linking this to false statements that he published, and so far it looks like she's got a weak. It seems to be a weak claim, but again, I didn't go over all the evidence because
Right.
I thought we were going to follow it here.
Yeah, we absolutely are. But I want to make sure, and we're going to keep following it. Like Joseph said, there's we'll know if it gets dismissed next week at some point. So
Yeah, I
I
think
do
it's
want to
Wednesday.
make sure we talk about P. Diddy some.
Hmm.
I want to make sure, because this is going to be an ongoing thing too. This is a big case. You know, if it were, do you remember how giant just the world was taken over by
Yeah.
Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard? But there were cameras in the courtroom. I don't see this one quite to that degree, but we're seeing a lot of the stuff come out that, like, you emailed me the other day, Trump got implicated into the trial.
Because these parties took place in a Trump tower.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least one of these parties took place in Trump Tower. So whatever was going on, I don't know, because if there are investigations, remember he effectively owns the Department of Justice, so he can stop that investigation at will.
That's wild. That is that is a massive overreach, but you know.
For now, I know it's corrupt.
As fuck.
Based on the constitutional structure, it's something you can't avoid. But because this is going to a court, okay, so it's on a court record. Okay, within the statute of limitations, an investigation can be opened as soon as he's out of office. So that doesn't matter.
Right.
And yeah, and this is don't pay attention to that presidential immunity shit. That's not going to apply here. This is stuff. First off, it would have taken place way before he was president.
Right, exactly.
More than that, presidential immunity is only for his presidency.
Exactly.
That's
and
why
what specifically relates to it, not P. Diddy parties.
Right.
I don't think that's related.
That's 100% a private act, and if he's involved in anything criminal, then it just doesn't matter.
They absolutely are. The court sketches are wild.
Oh no, those courts. I'm going to send you something good right now. Go to your email, because I just sent you something we need to talk about. In fact, we're going to talk about the star witness herself, lioness Cassie Ventura.
Oh my God, we're not doing this. We're not victim shaming.
We're not. Well, on. No, she lied. She took the stand. Oh, here's what happened, guys.
This girl is gorgeous. What are you on right now? Please tell me. Please tell me,
Look
Jeff.
at them.
She
Look,
is fucking gorgeous. She's pregnant. She looks like she's about 8 months pregnant, and she is fucking glowing. She is killing that outfit.
Lard Lad is glowing too. I just wanted to make sure we all understood, you know.
Oh, gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Well, let me
now
tell you
the sketches are absolutely terrible, but
anyway, okay, let's talk about the truth right now. Remember, she sued publicly. That's a public filing. Within 24 hours, Sean settled. Now, what I thought he was talking about Lard Lads. Like, don't tell me.
He said, "Don't tell me you wouldn't do it yourself if you're in Trump's position." And he said Trump's position, so I said giggity.
Okay, but here's here's what I was saying there. The court record is separate from anything within the hands of the Department of Justice. There's nothing he can do to stop that. So even if the DOJ stopped it now, as soon as he's out of office, just go back to the court record, open the investigation. There's nothing he can do about that. So it's going to be years down the road. But let's talk about Kathy's lie. So after her public filing, after she got her settlement, okay, you know, you might remember she said that the baby oil was laced with GHB. She said she's the one who started that, and a bunch of lawsuits came out since then talking about laced baby oil with GHB. And at trial, she said she was the one who handled the baby oil. And she was asked if it had GHB. She said no.
So the baby oil she had didn't have GHB in it. Maybe she thought at the time it did.
But then you're speculating. The statement of fact is it did not have GHB. She lied about the GHB to make this, to basically she sensationalized her own lawsuit. So there's no dispute that she's been beaten. Let's get that straight. That's not.
I want to. I want to because I know you were fucking around the other day in chat, but like, let's not pretend like we haven't seen this girl with black eyes, fat lips, bruises. You know, let's not pretend like we didn't see her get her ass whomped by P. Diddy.
Right. Oh, so bad she thinks her name is Cassie Ventura now. It's amazing. You don't think so? We know she got beat up. Okay, we're not gonna say. I'm not here to say she didn't get beat.
Okay,
I'm not saying that, and I wasn't saying that.
Just making sure. I know you were fucking around the other day.
But no, I didn't even say any of that. I was bringing up the fact that she lied. Okay,
right.
Look at her. We have to look at her civil complaint. She had met domestic. I think she said sexual battery. She's assault, battery, and sex trafficking. Okay, so what happened there? She made all these allegations, including the sex trafficking.
Are you trying to say that she wasn't trafficked by being forced to sleep with other men?
Hold on. Let me talk about this first. But actually, let me just answer your question first. Based on her testimony, I don't think she showed that she was forced to be there. Because
we saw her trying to escape, Joseph.
That was one hotel incident, first of all.
What? Right. But we saw her as she was trying to escape. Wouldn't that lead you to believe if she tried to escape, the same thing would happen?
He was taking a cell phone from her, and the full video that was shown in court showed that he actually was getting that cell phone back.
Right. Because it had proof of their shit. Yeah.
I don't know what was on.
I mean, that's okay. That's a big assumption on my part. We saw her trying to escape. So if that sets up a pattern of behavior, her trying to escape could have led very easily to her death.
So the issue, she's alive. Remember that.
Right.
That's another thing. Yeah. Let's take what you said. Let's take that as fact. Could have led to her death. Okay. But that was in 2016, where they break up 2018. So he had plenty of time to do it. All right. And she's alive. Bottom line, she is alive. So that's not the strongest argument here. Now let's talk about the force he used. It was 100% illegal. Even a police officer would have a hard time justifying that. Okay.
That was good.
Don't get me wrong.
Good.
You know that's true. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, there's nothing he did that was legal. Now, even let's say he wanted to argue defensive property because he did go get a cell phone back. the way he did it was in excess under the circumstances. Okay, he could argue, you know, if he just reached in to snatch it, even if he got rough while doing it, okay, he might be able to argue it. But the fact that he threw her down, kicked her while she was down, even after grabbing the phone, shows it was excessive. So he wouldn't have had, if that were actually tried at the States, he wouldn't be able to use that defense.
Right.
So once he started kicking her while she was down, he would have lost. Okay, so but that's not the issue here. When it comes down, you don't hear a guy with a lawnmower right now, do you?
No, not at all.
Okay, good, because I have my noise filters on.
You don't have any. You hear any Motionless in White, do you?
No.
Let's go.
I don't think anybody should be hearing that.
No.
Anyway, okay, back to the point, guys. The question for the court is not whether or not Cassie was beaten. We know she was beaten. 100% of what happened to her was wrong. But the question for the court is more specific than that. Did this use of force amount to restraining her for purposes of sex trafficking? And like I said, when you take the evidence as a whole, or the amounts that I've seen, because I'm following it in pieces just like anybody else. But based on cross-exam, I don't believe she proved that she was ever forced to be there. The last exhibit that was shown for the court, it was a text message between the two. Sean asked if she wanted to be part of another freak off. She said she didn't want to freak off again. She wanted to freak off for the first time for the rest of their lives. And that's at the end of it. Okay, that was towards the end of their relationship, about the time she was dating her now husband. And that, okay, so there's taken as a whole, I don't believe that she proved that she was necessarily forced to be there.
So I do want to make sure to say this: when a woman in that sort of situation is scared, that fear is going to take over, right? I don't necessarily we weren't there. We don't know for sure, right? But when a woman is in a situation like that, fear will take over. They will say what wants to be heard. They will say and stay for fear of situations like, you know, we actually did see P. Diddy do.
Okay, but we can't use that for testimonial purposes. We can't do that. She swore an oath to tell the truth. Okay, and because she swore, she was found competent to testify. So she's got to be treated like anybody else. Her statements are treated as facts. Okay, and then when the statements are conflicting, now we have proven falsehoods, like when she talked about the baby oil. She was the one handling the baby oil. She paid for some of these parties out of her pocket. Okay, and she requested some of these parties that she paid for them out of her pocket. So when you take the evidence all together, I don't believe that based on her testimony, she proved that she was stuck. And now, of course, she could have been, but that's not really what we're supposed to be doing at trial. We're not supposed. If we just let the imagination run wild, we're never going to solve anything. In fact,
you're absolutely right.
And juries are instructed on that. Juries are instructed that you're using the statements, the testimony that you're given, because ultimately the testimony that the witnesses give are the evidence. It's not, and they're instructed, it's not the questions or statements from the lawyers or even necessarily the judge, unless the judge says to disregard something. Okay, but they are instructed to follow the evidence. Don't let the imagination run wild, because you can make an inference out of anything. You can make anything seem possible if you're going to do that. If we take her statements as truth as they were given, I don't believe that she. And again, one more time, guys, because I'm following it in pieces just like everybody else. It's scheduled for 8 weeks, and we're just into week 2. We're about to end week 2.
Right, exactly.
So one thing. Go ahead.
You always talk about is or not always, but you mention is how they come off to the jury, right? If they're credible, it's a big deal, right? So her going in there, big, fat, and pregnant. Her going in there with the stories that were told about him wanting people to come on her and then rubbing in his nipples and pee in her mouth. Like, these are stories that were told. I am sad that I heard them.
I know there are stories that are told. Don't get me wrong. I know there are stories that are told. I'm not fighting you on that. Well, okay, I'm not fighting you on that. The issue is not whether. Remember, guys. Fact and argument that we talked about earlier. Okay, so these are the fact. The parties happened. Fact, people were paid off and all that. Okay, she's saying it's a lack of consent, but then you look at the later evidence, it doesn't show a lack of consent. Okay, her spoken testimony and the written evidence that was used against her on cross-exam didn't reflect what she was saying when she testified. And so let me continue right there. Cross-exam, what's the value of that? During direct examination, where the witness is talked to for the first time, all the questions have to be open-ended. Like, where were you that day? What did you see that day? It has to be asked in a way that allows her to explain her story without interruption. Okay, that's her one fair chance to tell the truth. Cross-exam is different. Cross-exam, you get to be harder. So in direct examination, you can't say things like, you lied on this occasion, right? That's a leading question. You're leading somebody to a certain conclusion. Okay. Or you can't even say, like, so that time Sean Combs hit you, if there are ways to set that up in direct examination.
I would be so bad at that job.
Yeah, it's harder than people think. You have to set a foundation for every question. But when you go into cross-exam, because she already had her fair chance, now you can ask the tough questions. So she said in direct exam, she didn't want to be part of these parties. Then comes cross-exam. Look at all these text messages showing you not only wanted to be part of these parties, you started them, you paid for them. Some of this prostitution is actually her doing, and that's another thing people aren't really seeing. Cassie is an unindicted co-conspirator. She is a partner in crime.
Would you say similar to Giselle Maxwell or to you know what I'm saying? That, huh?
No, Ghislaine Maxwell. Wait,
I can't say that. Come on now.
I didn't follow that one closely at all. I'm following this closely, but again in pieces, because the cameras aren't allowed, so we can't watch the witnesses ourselves.
Right.
Otherwise, I would just be watching that. But with Jelaine, I believe what was her thing? Like she
was helping traffic. She was getting women.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It is similar. Yes. Now she was actually indicted. Now minors were involved. Remember the point of the RICO charges.
Yeah.
They get the co-conspirators to name the big guy.
Right.
But
right.
For her, that's hard to justify to the general public, because she was actually setting things up with minors involved. Okay, so she was probably
Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, especially not the instant the cameras went out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Anyway, but it's okay. Similar. Now let's remember, minors aren't involved in the Sean Combs story.
Right. It is very different to that degree. Right,
but it's similar in that they are involved in the enterprise, the racket. Okay, so under the RICO charge, when they call you an enterprise, that just means two people are committing crimes together. They have an agreement to commit these crimes together. It doesn't have to be a corporation. The group doesn't have to be a name. It's just two individuals agree. Okay, that's the minimum requirement. They agree to conspire to commit criminal acts, and they're committing overt acts in furtherance of these crimes, of this conspiracy. And that's basically what's going on. But she's not getting pinpointed like that. The government hasn't said that yet. We're going to have to wait for the closing arguments.
Right.
So probably about maybe 5 weeks, more maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah, we're not going to know that till July.
Yeah, I doubt it's going to be. I doubt they're going to go to the full 8 weeks, but it's scheduled for 8 weeks because there is a lot here. But anyway, as far as her role in this, because she's not even being criminally charged, but she actually is a co-conspirator in all this, and that does matter, because if she's a co-conspirator, she wanted to be here, and no, that doesn't mean that he has a defense for beating her. Understand, guys? Under no.
But that's not okay. I think, if I remember correctly, when I was going through stuff, didn't they say his defense even admit to the abuse to that degree, but said he wasn't
during the opening statement,
a sex trafficker and stuff like that? He said, yeah, this dude is, in TLDR, he was a piece of shit woman beater, but he didn't traffic people.
Right. That's essentially it. So his team admitted to domestic violence.
Yes.
Okay, and now something people so people who don't know that in criminal defense, not everything in criminal defense is about getting the charges dropped altogether. Some of it's just about reducing charges. Like you remember earlier this year there was that trial with a dude who died on the subway in New York. Jordan Neely is
Yes,
the
yes, I
deceased
do.
man.
And the cop,
Okay, and
or the
Daniel.
not a cop, he was
No,
a
he was a former Marine. He's
Marine, and he was
yeah.
acquitted.
Yes. So first off, for people who watch that trial and people think you can choke somebody to death just because you were threatened, no, that's not what you saw. That is not. In
No.
fact, I want to remind people who watched that and didn't catch it. The jury was initially divided on manslaughter. Okay, and that was manslaughter. That was imperfect self-defense.
Yeah.
So under the self-defense rules, it has to be an imminent threat. Yeah, it has to be an imminent threat. The force used has to be equivalent to the danger, right? So you can't use more force than that. Now, a lot of things went really wrong, mainly because Daniel spoke to the cops. Okay, he when he spoke to the cops, he admitted he was aware that other people were helping him subdue this guy. They were restraining him. Okay, and he continued to choke. That was really bad for him. By admitting that other people were restraining him and subduing the threat, he's basically admitting the threat was no longer imminent.
Right.
At that point, he squeezed because he won. Okay, you
Yeah,
can
he was
argue
still acquitted.
adrenaline. Okay, but and that's something else.
Right.
Bottom line, this is what the point I want to get across to people. That was imperfect self-defense. The jury was divided, and he got lucky. That was a one-off. Anybody else would have been convicted. It's not a race issue. By no means.
No. I don't think it was ever a race issue. I think people tried to make it that.
Oh yeah,
because that's what they do.
But anyway,
they're called liberals. Fucking smartass.
but anybody who thinks that you're going to go choke somebody just because there was a threat, supposedly a threat, that's not what happens. Okay, for starters, you need a reason to believe the threat is going to be carried out. Now you can argue based on the witness testimony. The guy was, he was spitting. He was talking about.
Didn't he have some mental
that's all
issues?
That's all irrelevant. It did happen, but that's all irrelevant.
Okay.
Nobody knows that when you meet him.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. But ultimately, it came down to the force used. Because let's say you're using a lethal amount of force, but the jury doesn't agree that under the circumstances you needed that force. Okay, that's imperfect self-defense, and that's manslaughter. And what was he charged with? Manslaughter. Okay, so that's just something I want to get across to you guys. For the use of force for self-defense is the rules are very strict. Okay, and it's only for imminent circumstances. And back to Sean Combs, under no circumstances was anything imminent. The one argument he would have had is when he tried to get the cell phone back, defense of property. But the force has to be used to get the property back. Throwing her on the ground and kicking her, none of that applies here. Now it's just assault. Now
it's just domestic violence.
Right. Now, yeah, exactly. Now it's just domestic violence. Okay. But let me also circle back to why I said Cassie lied. She could have committed perjury, and she would have been criminally liable. So in her public filing, her lawsuit, okay, that's a public filing.
The civil one, is that what you're talking about?
Civil, yeah. Okay, in the civil complaint, remember, she alleged GHB. And haven't we been waiting ever since the arrest for the government to produce evidence of GHB? Because that's been going on ever since then, because of Cassie and those other lawsuits saying that they were at these parties, they believed the baby oil was laced with GHB. They're all saying
what you just said. They believed the baby oil was laced with GHB. That does it, and this is my brain looking from the outside in, right? Mm-hmm. So take what I say with a grain of salt, but that doesn't mean every baby oil is laced with GHB. It could mean that it happened at a party one time, right? You know what I'm saying?
It's conceivable.
It's possible.
This is the big problem, though. The government still to this day never put that in the evidence. So it's not in the evidence. That's why she had to say the baby oil did not have. She was forced to tell the truth at that point. Because at that point, if she had said yes, now they could really scold her.
So it seems to some degree that she definitely indulged initially the story.
Oh yeah, to that degree. But that's the thing. To that degree, the sex trafficking chart that, or at least that part right there, because force, fraud, or coercion, those are elements in the New York statute. So coercion, for people who don't get it, the difference between force and coercion. So force is basically the stomping, slamming her down, the physical force. The coercion is under threat to behave a certain way. Is when you use a threat of something to make people behave a certain way, like drug use. Okay, so that's why the drug use would have been relevant in the story.
Okay.
But she said at this criminal trial there was no GHB. And she had to say that because the government never alleged it. So it's not in the evidence. So if she had said yes while she was at trial, she would have been liable for perjury at a later date.
Okay. So that's why the story seemingly changed.
Yeah, that she had to say it. Because perjury, and we talked about this before. False statements and perjury aren't the same thing. For perjury specifically, the lie has to be willfully told to gain favor from a jury.
Okay.
So if she had said yes, and it looks like she's trying to get favor from a jury, she would have been held liable. He could have still been convicted, but I think for that, since she was the witness to a sex trafficking charge, on appeal he might have been able to argue to get that charge dropped. But let's also face some other facts. Just move on to what else is really going on. Now that we established she did tell some lies, and that's part of my point. She's not the only one changing her stories. A lot of these witnesses are giving different stories. Like Dawn Richard is a recent one. She said something about threats, like physical threats at trial, but she didn't mention that previously to when she was investigated by prosecutors. You have now the security guard, and Raymond is I think he's still a licensed security guard in California. This guy was also in California. Let's see if he has anything to say about this. So the guy responded. If you haven't seen the full video, the full video now shows the hotel security staff respond. It's only one guy. And he goes up there to respond. He talks about what happened out there. Now, the video doesn't show what I'm about to tell you. He said at one point in the hotel, he had to pin Sean to a wall with his forearm. Now, remember, this incident was 9 years ago. He filed it. He wrote an incident report. The security guard never called the cops. He never wrote that use of force. He never wrote that use of force down in his report. He never said he pinned Sean Combs to a wall. And also more to the story, he's saying that there was a bribe, something about I think there's 100,000 is what he was offering, right? And this is all stuff that's coming up now. And you see it, and this is also.
I do feel like a bribe, something like that, would have some sort of trace. I feel like that should be something that could be easily provable, whether you look at bank records or.
Well, then here comes another thing. Yeah, and you're right. Like, maybe did he withdraw $100,000? Did he?
Right. Did all of a sudden did this guy start being able to, pay his bills, bought a car, something along those lines?
Well, he was paid to make the video disappear. He says he didn't make the video disappear, but he had the next 2 days off. When he came back to work, the video was gone. I don't know why he went to look for it, but the video was gone. And there's no other video about what happened over, because this supposedly all happened at the front desk.
Right.
Right. Do you see what I'm saying? It seems like there's some important stuff is missing where it shouldn't.
Well, if he was paid to make the video disappear and the video disappeared, kind of.
Yeah. It seems to help, but you see what I mean, though. Let's go back to that use of force. If he didn't say that, he's saying it 9 years later, and he was scolded on cross-exam for that. So this wasn't important 9 years ago. It's important now. And just so you know, prosecution tried to object, and the judge said overruled. Yes, you can ask that question. No, there's just object. Yeah, he can try a few different objections from there. Bottom line, it wasn't going to work. He can ask that question. That's the point of cross-exam, to challenge people. And so he was challenged, and I believe he failed that challenge. So you're telling us all, and he's not the only one. That's what people aren't seeing right now. He's not the only one changing his story. Cassie isn't the only one changing her story. Dawn Richards isn't, or I think it's actually Rashard, isn't the only one changing her story. She was another artist under Bad Boy Records. A bunch of stories are changing, and let's not forget this one, because you know who Dawn Hughes is. You remember her from the Amber Heard trial, the one that let Amber Heard diagnose herself.
Yes. Yes. Oh my
She
God.
testified. I think she finished testimony yesterday or 2 days ago, and she was exactly as you expected. And she fell apart on cross-exam too, because what does she do? She advocates. She goes and helps. Her testimony is that she helps other experts give expert testimony in court, and she was scolded because she has never to this day helped a defendant in a sexual abuse case.
Lord have mercy.
Right, and so her biases were highlighted really well. She should have never even testified. Remember,
Right.
she didn't do anything to diagnose Cassie. She has no involvement with Cassie. The government just picked her because she's rotten. In fact, one of the reasons I followed this case, because I've heard for years that the Southern District in New York is full of these especially talented prosecutors, and I'm not seeing any talent, dude.
Right.
These people, they're dirty prosecutors just like anyone else.
Right.
Okay, you guys think I shouldn't have even said dirty prosecutors. I should have just said prosecutors.
Because it's the same thing. You said the same thing twice.
It's the truth though. Okay, again, back to the case dude who choked out the other guy.
Daniel Penny. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So during the police interview, there was a point where the cops early on, they told a joke just as an icebreaker. Okay. And Daniel laughed. Okay. When Daniel laughed, that moment was paused for the jury at trial. And he said, the prosecutor said, Daniel was laughing within 1 hour of killing somebody because he's a stone cold killer. And it's 100% lawful for the government to say that. Because remember, fact and argument. The fact he laughed.
Yep.
Right. And now you have the argument. Okay. Yeah. The defense could have argued it's irrelevant, but credibility is up to the jury. So that's one of those things. As things get iffy, credibility is always up to the jury. In fact, if Sean, let's get back to Sean.
Isn't that also why Sean Combs didn't want Cassie to appear? That he didn't want her to look sympathetic as a big fat pregnant woman.
No, well, they're trying to get everything dismissed, obviously. Okay, and there's good reason for that. If you have an issue, actually, they even tried to get the video dismissed. That was another thing. So
the video, let's go there. Why would they? I mean, I know why they would want it dismissed, but what possible reason could they have to dismiss that?
There actually is a good legal argument. I knew it wasn't going to work, but there actually is a good legal argument. So when it comes down to documentary evidence, that's videos, photographs, written evidence, text messages, and so on, and anything with a documentary, even the keystrokes in your laptop, all that is documentary evidence. Okay,
that's crazy,
right? And any of that is documentary evidence for courtroom purposes. So sometimes, a lot of times, actually, the courts are relying on copies of a document. So let's say there's an issue with the copy. Somebody has to raise the issue and tell the judge there's an issue with the copy. Upon proving the issue with the copy, the judge is then going to require that the source material be provided.
Right. Then that makes sense.
And if the source material cannot be provided, then the exhibit has to be dismissed. That whole thing is called the best evidence rule. So in the case of the Sean Combs video, the defense argued that the video was significantly altered, which is, and that's a predicate for this rule. And because it was significantly altered, if the source video was not available, then it should be dismissed. Okay, now here's why it didn't work. Sean, King Dipshit himself, had no problem identifying himself on the video.
Right.
So I honestly, I doubted it was going to work either way, but because that was just a bad thing worse, because he identified himself on the video. If it's not an issue for him to identify himself, it's not an issue for the jury. In fact, they can just play that video and say, look, he identified himself.
Yeah.
So there's no issue with the copy of the video. But the two reasons they say that, obviously they want this dismissed. They don't want they don't
want that scene any more than it already has been.
And Sean Combs he pays for these lawyers. Okay, the lawyers don't want to lose that income. Of course they're going to try, but also for a legal purpose. for legal purposes, anything you don't take up on appeal, you don't get to bring up later. So if
Right.
Sean didn't argue that this video was significantly altered, that something was wrong with it, he can't take that up on appeal because that's admitting new evidence on appeal.
Right.
Everything that comes out at trial and includes the objections. So if he doesn't object, or his team doesn't object where they should, that doesn't get to come up at trial either. So no matter what, he has to raise the issue, has to raise the objection, has to attempt to get this stuff dismissed, even though it logically wasn't going to work. No, like nobody in their right mind was going to dismiss that video after.
Oh,
Sean
no. I mean, anybody in that looks at that video is going to be horrified.
So now he should out of luck. In fact, the jury is probably going to convict simply because the evidence taken as a whole is overwhelmingly against him. It's showing a pattern to a point where it's arguably needlessly cumulative, which actually is an evidentiary issue he can take up on appeal. He can argue that this evidence was repetitive, that he didn't have to put this much forward to make the point. And there is a reason for that, because you don't want to prejudice the jury. Overwhelming the jury is biasing the jury against the defendant. Similar to happened when out with Alec Baldwin in his trial. What?
Okay, so to that degree, showing this evidence, even if it's repetitive, isn't it done to show a pattern of behavior?
Well, if it's a pattern of different behaviors, that's not repetitive. But if you're hitting the same point home over and over, yeah, that's repetitive. Like
okay, but it's repetitive, but it's making a point to show his pattern. You see what I'm saying?
But remember, you still can't bias the jury. You cannot confuse.
Watch me,
the jury. So look, here's what happened to Alec Baldwin. Because remember, there was the shooting, right?
Yes.
And there were photos from the hospital. The lawyers motioned to have some of those photos suppressed because it was needlessly repetitive, and the judge did agree. So the judge didn't see every possible photo of Miss Helena Hutchins dead and bleeding out. Okay. They only saw a few. They only saw what was necessary to actually make the prosecution's point. And
I do get what you mean now, but I get what you mean, but also I do think it's important to establish a pattern to show exactly what was going on, because we weren't there. We don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Their patterns are being established, but that's working for the prosecution and against the prosecution a little bit. It depends. Again, appellate court. So people who don't understand how the appellate court works, everything, the highest evidence in any civil or criminal trial is the court record. It's not the DNA. It's not the video. It's not the photographs. The testimony that comes from the witnesses goes on the record. Even the expert witnesses, what they explain, how they explain DNA evidence, photographic evidence, or in the event, like psychological experts are on there. Okay, so they would have to explain the method used for the psychiatrist purpose or the psychologist purpose. But all of it has to go on the court record, or it's not valid. It's not evidence if it's not ultimately explained on the court record. Bottom line.
Okay.
Everything that is not on anything not on the court record effectively didn't happen, and you can't take it up on appeal. If something was stricken from the record, that's different. Okay, but you can only take up on appeal what is on the record, including your objections. Again, so that's why he has to raise objections, even if it seems like he's making an objection just to try to shut somebody up. It may or may not be the case, but if his team doesn't at least raise the objection, he can't bring it up later. And facing facts, because of this, it's a sex cases, violence, murder cases. These are the most emotionally charged cases. In all likelihood, he's going to prison, even if the evidence, whether or not the evidence is just needlessly repetitive,
right?
Whether or not he's going to go to prison. There's too much going on. Too much against him, and even the witnesses changing their stories. I think at this point, they're probably going to lean against.
Well, think about when this all went down and he was taken into court. Without an insane amount of evidence, this would not have happened. It was just one thing right after the other. They would not have held him for so long. Like if they, maybe I'm wrong.
No.
But I
Oh,
feel
you're
like
right.
if they didn't feel like they had a strong case, they would not have done what the steps that they took when it was seizing his house and his children being there and then being in court or being in jail for
Right.
God knows how long.
Well, it's been about 8 months now.
Yeah, I was going to say a year. I knew it was close. He wouldn't have been held to that degree if there wasn't some sort of extremely substantial evidence.
A big one that was against him is the illegal firearms. The illegal firearms.
Oh, yep. You're right.
Yeah. So, yeah, so they were all AR-15s with the serial number scratched off. That was a real bad look.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's not a good look, guys.
Yeah. So, because of all that, yeah, he was probably, that's why when you and I first talked about this, I said he's probably going to stay locked up pending trial.
Yep.
For
sure
serious felonies, that's normal.
Yeah. And in all the stuff that they've got, what is it? Racketeering and
yeah, so you have racketeering, one I forgot how many counts because it's 3 charges, 5 counts total. But
and then the sex trafficking, the transportation of prostitutes over state lines. Like there's so much against him at this point. And then there's I don't know if you've ever gone down a rabbit hole, a P. Diddy rabbit hole, but I did when, looking at this stuff. Just the allegations that you've seen, and obviously they're just allegations taken with a grain of salt, but of his involvement in, rapper's death, or I know there was stuff with Justin Bieber. You were trying to explain that the other day.
Well, when Sean was indicted, when he was arrested.
Right.
So when he was arrested, a lot of people started looking at his entire career with hindsight, including some videos with Justin Bieber.
Creepy
so some videos with him. Yeah, well, a lot of people see that with hindsight now because he got arrested. But finally, a few days ago, Justin said nothing. Justin said he was never a victim.
Okay. So this was recent. He said it.
Yeah. But now that's going to throw people off. Why did he stay quiet until trial?
Right.
There's a chance that he did talk to investigators. So he probably spoke to a grand jury. And the grand jury, and the grand jury is the jury that gets to decide if the investigation is going to continue, if the charges get filed. So that means he gets subpoenaed to testify, and he has to. He can't lean on the First Amendment doesn't apply to subpoenas.
Right.
Or at least not in this, not like that. I'd have to be more specific to explain, but you definitely can't lean on the Fifth Amendment in this case because he's not a suspect.
Right.
Since he's not a suspect, he has to respond to the subpoena. So if he gets a subpoena to go, whatever district and testify to the grand jury, he has to do it. Now, he didn't come up in the trial, probably because if he did see a grand jury, they didn't have anything to add.
Right. Exactly.
He didn't contribute anything. But his lawyers would have told him, stay quiet until this settles.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. And it's probably smartest. He probably doesn't want to be involved. He's
right. So that could also be another reason why over the next few weeks you're going to hear more celebrities come out.
Yeah.
Or you may one of them that people are looking for is Jennifer Lopez.
Yep. She's been named a lot.
Well,
and Beyonce was another one too that I've heard.
Yeah, well, Beyonce and Jay-Z came up, but we already saw what happened when Jay-Z's name came up. The girl that accused him got shut down.
Okay.
Do you know a lot about that story? I'm going to give you a real short version. Okay. This girl, she was like 14, said she went to one of Jay-Z's shows and they got invited to a party with Sean Combs. Said she was attacked, she was assaulted, and ran naked for a distance that she would have had to go about 35 miles per hour for 43 minutes.
Jesus. Yeah, I don't think
that run that fast.
No like that. Okay.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. And she named first she named Sean and Jay-Z. Then at first she said that there was a female celebrity there that wasn't named yet. Then she went on and I think she did name Jennifer. A lot of people were expecting Beyonce, but she named Jennifer. Right. But one of the lawyers defending Sean Combs right now, he's the one that defended Jay-Z here. There's a video of him dissecting the whole story. Right. Okay. Right down to the math of it. I mean, where he broke down how this could not have happened. Dude, they even subpoenaed the city to see if there was or any permits for a jumbotron were provided that night. Because she said there was a jumbotron.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. Yeah, there was nothing. So she had
Okay.
nothing to argue with. Okay. But as far as Jennifer specifically, yeah, Beyonce's name comes up. Jennifer's coming. Okay, a lot of names are coming up. Everybody close to Sean is going to get named right now.
Yeah.
If there's any relevance, you're going to see that when he calls defense witnesses. I don't know what Jennifer could provide. I'm not paying that close attention to the rumors. I'm following the facts of the trial. And like I said, the facts of the trial.
Let's wrap up. But what I was going to ask you is, I know your schedule's a little funky, but next Friday, do you want to
be available?
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, because I figured we could update this, and then we've got the update with Smash JT. We could talk about them both again.
Absolutely. Yeah,
he's
probably, because he's gonna flip his lips. He can't help himself. We'll make. Do you want to just make that solely about him, or you want to follow both of these events again?
I mean, we could update both. I don't see why we couldn't. Yeah, I think that would be perfect. And we can keep up on what. I mean, there may not be a bunch about Sean Combs, but there's definitely going to be something.
Oh no, there's going to be a bunch.
Okay, all right, that works perfectly then. Hell yeah.
Yeah, and as far as JT, again, I think more likely the case is going to be dismissed. That it's not hopeless for her. She'd have to file a new complaint. And then I don't know from there. I honestly don't know, because like I said, I really thought the case was actually kind of weak, even though yes, he is being a dick, but they're also being dicks to each other.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it too, and I'll definitely see you next Friday.
Yeah, next Friday, guys, we've got updates, and we'll see you guys then. Thank you so much, Joseph.
No problem.
Everybody have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.
I can joke, I feel it's going